Hi, my name's James, and I'm a senior assistant psychologist at Hampshire CAMS. Throughout the day, we will get lots of thoughts that come and go. While some are fleeting, others can become more fixed and go round and round our mind. Sometimes, some of the ways in which we think are unhelpful. We can fall into thinking traps or errors, which can impact on our ability to cope. As human beings, this is completely normal, but these thinking habits can be self-critical. Naturally, parents can be particularly self-critical of their parenting too. During times of increased stress, individuals tend to get more caught up in our internal unhelpful thinking habits, which can often be very self-critical. Parents often might notice increased thoughts such as, "I'm failing as a parent," or "if only I'd done things differently," "it's my fault they're struggling," "I'll never be good enough," "others will judge me," or "they are a better parent than I am." This can be exhausting. It's like having a bully talking down at you consistently throughout the day. Unfortunately, it's not always easy to block out these thoughts. If someone says to you, "I want you to think of a pink elephant," imagine its bright pink, ears, tusks, and pink long trunk. Now whatever you do, do not think of a pink elephant. What immediately pops into your head? A pink elephant, right? Can you get it out of your mind? You're still thinking about it. What this demonstrates is that when we try to take full control of our thoughts can get louder rather than disappear, which can be distressing and make us feel more stressed. Dr. Russ Harris provided a helpful way of explaining this. He said, "Have you ever had the experience of doing some activity whilst there was a radio on in the background, and you were so absorbed in what you were doing, and your favourite song came on and you started singing to it? Then the music changed and the radio faded into the background. What if you could learn to do this with your own mind?" Whilst we cannot always control or eliminate our internal processes, we can learn to identify, notice, and distance ourselves from our unhelpful thinking traps to prevent them from affecting our feelings and productivity. We can then see the situation in a more helpful way. Just like the sound of the radio that fades into the background when the sound is not useful or of interest, we can also get our unhelpful thinking traps to fade into the background. There are 5 main thinking traps we can fall into, which can affect our ability to cope: all or nothing thinking, catastrophizing, overgeneralization, personalization, and discounting the positives. We all fall into thinking traps from time to time, some more so than others, and it is only by recognizing that we are falling into a thinking trap that we are able to try and do something about it. I will now explain a bit more about each thinking trap and what you can do to challenge it. Consider whether you notice this is a thinking trap you commonly experience. All or nothing thinking can also be described as black or white thinking. It can occur in any situation where we sometimes decide that doing one thing would have made us a good parent, another a bad parent. For example, we may think if we visited a GP earlier, then our child might have struggled in school less, and that this makes me a bad parent. It can be helpful to think about the grey area in between, or consider the response on a scale, where 10 is the most flawless, amazing parenting possible, and 1 is the worst parenting possible. Where you might initially score yourself a 1 in how you responded to an argument with your child, on reflection, you may have tried to talk to your child about how they were feeling. You may have fed them, you may have taken them to school, and you may have already tried speaking to a fellow parent about the situation. You may then re-evaluate your parenting as a 7 out of 10, as opposed to all or nothing thinking. Catastrophizing occurs when we focus on the negative aspects of a situation and consider the worst possible outcome. For example, we may only think about the negative futures that await our child following a diagnosis, rather than focusing on the benefits of having received that diagnosis and the countless positive things to come in your child's life. In moments when we are struggling, it can be easy to think things are only going to get worse. It's helpful to consider your support network and try to use the STOP method, which we discuss in the chapter on emotion regulation, to try and reach a more balanced perspective. Overgeneralization occurs when we use one incident to make inferences on future events. We may go through one negative scenario or challenging conversation and assume that in the future the same pattern will be followed. For example, if you found yourself losing your temper after your child had been rude to you, you may draw the conclusion, I'm always losing my temper, or my child is always going to be rude to me, I have failed. It can be helpful to think about what you might say to a friend or fellow parent struggling in a similar situation. You might tell them how great they're doing, or recommend a different approach that works for you. Rather than viewing a single event as an invariable rule, one failure does not predict future failure. Personalisation is one of the most common thinking traps we fall into as a parent, where we attribute things going wrong for our child to ourselves. For example, our child may be struggling to concentrate in school and we blame ourselves for how they've been raised or how they act outside of school. This ties into guilt, and it can be helpful to consider the other reasons why this might be the case. Maybe the way in which a subject is taught to your child is difficult to understand, or doesn't appeal to their learning styles. Whilst there isn't always someone to blame, responsibility lies with your child as well as everyone else involved in their lives. Their friends, teachers, health professionals, and extended family. It's not all on your shoulders, and it's important to remind ourselves of this from time to time. Discounting the positives is another extremely common thinking trap. When our child is struggling, or we ourselves are struggling as parents, it can be very difficult to focus on all the positive things taking place. For example, it may be that we lose our patience following a dispute with our child, and lose our temper or react irrationally. In the moment, we don't think about all the times we didn't react like that, the times we were able to stay calm or respond in a way more in line with our values as parents. Noticing and valuing the positives is important, and whilst it can be challenging, it will lead to more gratitude and appreciation for ourselves as parents. In order to identify your common thinking habits, it's helpful to keep a thought diary so that you can track your common thoughts and the situations they arise in, so that you can be better prepared to manage it. What's Up, the free mental health app, can be used to keep a track of your thinking habits and provides helpful phrases you can use in the moment to help you challenge these. In our Parent Carer Manual, we also provide a range of top tips and strategies you can try to help distance yourself from these thoughts. Why not give them a go and see which ones work for you?